racing experience. It's come a long way since then. So kudos to them for their capability to execute and build. And then we also, I didn't know this, I believe at the time, but one of their advisors, which is James Bowater, is also an advisor at DEGA. So, he also went and talked to them. Hey guys, have you met DEGA? And they was, oh yeah, Ken already introduced us. And then he got the conversation jump started again. Then we had a quick, introductions, and then just started talking about the potential of working together. I was like, guys, on our side at DEGA, we want people like you to, who are building great games, to be able to focus more on your game, and we'll handle the blockchain complexities. They were already underway, right, in development. So, it's obviously a process that, goes organically, step by step. So we were just getting started with our API back then. So it was a great moment actually, because we could provide them with, the feature set that we were building and showcase it to them. They would see it and then give us feedback and say, this isn't that important. This other feature really is very important for us, and so forth. So basically that feedback allowed us to be able to prioritize the product development based on real world usage, right? Because you can lock yourself up in a lab, and there's this funny concept that a lot of us have in our heads, including myself, right? That, oh, you're gonna go innovate and you're gonna go lock yourself and just work really, really, really hard, right? Without doing anything else for months or years in your laboratory designing this great innovation. And that's completely wrong. That is absolutely the bad way to go about innovation. And this does happen, and a lot of people do this, but that's what we call, being locked up in an ivory tower, right? When you're completely disconnected from the reality of people that need to use your product. And sometimes, you might actually have been right when you set out to build a product, but by the time you finish, the market already found another solution. So to avoid all of these things is why we've, been doing this private reviews with them on top of what we're building, and it's been enormously helpful, right? And it told us that we were on the right track, and helped us prioritize the right things.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Actually, that is going in the direction of my next question. Like what you're saying is, it makes a lot of sense. Instead of going for, just building something without having the user needs in mind, you actually started working and talking with them to see what they need. So how was that process? Like you're saying, we were working already in our API. That's the DEGA Studio API, I assume, right? And at what level was it already? How valuable was the contribution with them? Can you go a little bit maybe technical specific about some things that cornucopias help to change your mind, or not change your mind, but guide a little bit the development and design process?
Yeah, so for us, we were only at the architecture design stage, right? So we knew how the system, was going to look in terms of modules. To give you an example, right, where DEGA is taking lessons learned from the cloud world and bringing them to blockchain, right? Because they've been battle tested in the cloud for scalability, right? This was something that was not possible a few years ago, but thanks to the very rapid rise of zero knowledge proof, now it is possible. So we're taking a concept called Kappa architecture, right? In case anybody wants to Google it, Kappa, right? Which itself is derived from another type of architecture called Lambda architecture, Lamba. So Lambda architecture basically allowed the cloud to be able to take reads, right, like a like a comment from millions of people's simultaneously, and then it has a way of distributing those rights, and then it has a different type of database, in the sense that usually in a database you got to write and read from the same place, But here you have a distributed ledger, right? And they're using, in the cloud, they would use Kafka. And then from that distributed ledger, then you would build out separately through another system a consolidated view, right? Because the ledger only has stuff like actions, right? Like write this, delete that, update this, and so forth, right? And then how the end state, after all those actions are taking place, how does that data look? That is done separately by what you would call a data indexer, right? So we were like, you know what? We can replace the distributed ledger, the Kafka, with a blockchain, right? Because a blockchain is a ledger, right? And then we can just create, we can use any of the existing indexers, or we on ourselves started building our own with eGraph, which is a system that was created by Google. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't want to go at that level there. But the point is that it allows you to separate the writing from the reading of the system, right? While still allowing them to consolidate and remain consistent over a determined period of time. So that's what we were back then, right? Like architecture level, modular level, conceptual level, systems integrations design level, right? Now, then we were like, well, okay, so what are the first features that we're gonna do, right? Like obviously you need to be able to mint the token, mint an NFT, but then, what are we supposed to do with that, right? So in conversations with them, they were like, yeah, you need to be able to equip NFTs. We need you guys to be able to have both immutable and mutable NFTs. You need to be able to have arbitrary metadata from the NFTs, right? You need to have that in on-chain and off-chain, right? And because they want to do stuff like, for example, when you're making a building, every single component of that needs to be an individual data point, right? Like, for example, every brick needs to be an NFT, and then each of those need to be then consolidated into a house, which is a bigger NFT, and so forth, right? So, that kind of thing, if you can't do that on any layer one mainnet, right? Not on Cardano and not on any other one, because it would be hugely expensive, right? Like imagine every time you're minting a brick, you gotta pay on chain, right? So through the layer two technology and this and our API, now you can do it, right? Because you could even host your own personalized layer two or layer three, right? Like that would be even cheaper. Like if you have your own layer three on top of an existing layer two, that's like double the savings there, right? So your actions end up costing fractions of cents, right? So that's kind of like the perspective that we got there, right? So we knew we were on the right track, we were on a design path, and then we started prioritizing those features from what that we needed to build out based mostly around the NFT metadata, let's say.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Thanks a lot for that insight. So, something also that I've been curious about, and I think you partially answered this question, but I'm going to go back there just to see also what's behind there. The collaboration with Cornucopia started way early in the development of DEGA project. Is the collaboration with Cornucopias what sparked the idea of DEGA serving as an infrastructure layer for all Web3 games, or was something that you already had envisioned from before?
No, that was already a vision, right? Like we would like, and I'd say this to any founder, right? Like you need to be flexible on execution, but your vision needs to be clear from the beginning, right? You need to know who you are, where you're headed, in the sense of what is the change that you wish to see in the world, and then how do you go about getting there is what you can change, right? Like should we build this tool or that tool or this feature or that feature? That's fine, you can change those around, but everything has to be building up towards something, right? So in our case, DEGA has always been pretty clear that our vision is to empower billions around the world to create their creativity in the digital economy, right? Even if it wasn't phrased in that way, because we have been tweaking the wording with the rabbit in terms of how we communicated with everybody else, but that has always been the vision, right? Gaming is our beachhead, right? Because people in gaming are digitally native, because people in gaming understand the value of digital assets, because as we move forward, it seems that everything is going to be gamified. So those principles have always been there from the start, right? And again, for any founder out there, you should never change your vision, where you're headed towards, based on any commercial partnership or any investor that comes with a new, oh, you shouldn't focus on that, you should focus on this. So again, change the execution, but don't change where you're going, right? So yeah, for us, it was always about going for gaming and going for global mass adoption and impact.
Thanks. Very wise words. I totally agree. I think cryptocurrencies, in a way, are to make payments decentralized, and they make sense for people that are already familiar with financial systems and all these concepts. And for NFTs and gaming, of course, this makes sense to gamers, to members of the digital nation that already understand and are very familiar because they live day by day with their digital assets and their digital property. And for them, NFTs is just a way of decentralizing this, and a layer that unified all games also, and metaverses experiences is something easy to understand for them. So thanks a lot for that explanation. And in that way, going in that direction, how would you describe, maybe in short, DEGA's role in the gamified world, and its goal of creating accessible tools for developers and creators?
Yeah, so we want the people to be able to focus on their game, right? Instead of focusing on the protocols, right? And something that many people have heard me say often, it's like the best analogy that I can always come back to is this Twitter space, right? Why are we here? Because we want to share our conversation, right? We're not here because we want to make a SSL encrypted certificate to encrypt data. We're not here because we want to use TCP/IP for the internet protocol. We're not here, not even for Twitter. It's like whatever, right? Like if we could use another platform, we would, right? So um, none of those underlying components matter in the sense of what's the goal that we want to realize, right? We need them and they're important and they better be damn well designed and work, execute in excellence, right? Because otherwise we're just gonna go to another app, right? Or we won't do it. We won't use it, right? If we were talking here and then the system keeps crashing and the audio sucks, then we're not going to use it, right? So it better work. Everything in the technology stack better work, but we're not here for that, right? We're here for the conversation, right? It's all about people and humans and our interactions. So the same thing happens with the blockchain industry right now. And as actually the industry right now, it's mostly us, geeks, right? Like people that are like, we fall in love with stuff like, oh, I really, really do love EVM. Or somebody might say, no, I really do love Cardano's functional programming oriented structure, right? And stuff like that. And nobody else out there cares, right? Nobody else out there cares. But we've been focused in the industry way too much on the technology and not enough on the actual usage, right? And experience that the people need. Like for me right now, onboarding somebody to Web3, even right now, it's still an embarrassing situation, right? Like coming and say, hey, I need you to, pick a piece of paper. You're going to write 24 words there. I need you to download this thing called MetaMask, and which has a horrible UX, by the way, and so forth. So basically, it's all about the things. The person is going to the things and trying their best to accommodate to them, right? Versus the other way around, which is the product and services accommodating to me, right? Being built in a flow and in an experience that makes me want to use it more or allows me to get my end goal done, right? Which might be, sending money, playing a game, whatever it is that you're doing in Web3, right? So what we're sitting at is we're abstracting away all of these complexities, right? So we are infrastructure providers, right? But we're providing you the infrastructure, the services, the protocols, the blockchain stuff without you having to worry about that. We'll worry about that. We got that covered, right? So what we want to do is to blockchain is what AWS did to the internet. Before AWS came out, you had to really work really, really hard to set up your internet company. You had to install the operating system, configure the networking, the firewalls, everything. Now you're just like, give me a web server, give me a SQL Server, give me a storage, whatever you need, it's there, ready to go. The developer can focus on their app, and then the user has a great experience, right? That's exactly what we want to do, right? We want to like, here's your layer 2, here's your sidechain, here's your gasless API, here's your NFT marketplace, anything that you need, here it is, ready to go. Focus on your game, focus on your metaverse application, and provide a great product and experience to your consumers.
And I just want to jump in there and give a analogy there. The things like ChatGPT 3, this is the exact same thing happened there. It's like we were a bunch of geeks behind the scenes, 20 years of working on the back end technologies of ChatGPT 3, and all of a sudden somebody creates a user interface where you can just type something in and get an answer, and it explodes all over the place because we made it. We brought the technology was meeting the person instead of the person having to meet the technology.
That's a really great synopsis, because I've been hearing that developers will have an easier time working with.
Is it me or did somebody audio go bad?
I think it's so just introducing also Sheridan, member of the cornucopias community. I talked with him before, and we are going to jump a little bit into what this means also for cornucopias from their side of the perspective. So that's why Sheridan is around. And Sheridan, just in case your audio is a little bit low,
yeah.
So we do feel the difference.
Yeah, I really can't.
I can bring my mic closer. Does that help?
Yes.
That's perfect. Thanks a lot. Just wanted to give you a quick intro, and thank you, Sheridan, for sharing today with us.
Thank you much. Yeah, I just wanted to carry up on the developer side, because I am also a junior game developer myself. I'm hearing that DEGA will make it significantly easier for developers to focus on the story side of the game instead of the mechanics and their economy, and that they can leave that to a more
get closer to the mic, Sheridan. I can't.
Sorry again. That DEGA will help developers get on their economies much faster with a built library rather than figuring out the mechanics themselves.
Yeah, we'll definitely be providing what you would call templates, right? In that sense. So one of the conversations that the Rabbit and I like to have constantly is around progression and power systems, right? So that combined with the economics and the gameplay is what gives you the overall holistic experience, right? So yeah, we will be providing some models for that, right? To be clear, nobody has to use what we put out there, right? That's something that we haven't worked on right now, right? The first step is mostly the infrastructure provisioning, and we believe that this is something that we would actually like we were doing with Cornucopias. We like to work with some of the game developers as we start doing the private beta integration programs, right? So we'll probably have you be a part of that and give us feedback in terms of what we're provisioning. And we are going to invite as well some other more seasoned gamification designers, some good friends from the Rabbit that have done economics for games and many other types of mechanics. So yeah, it is something that we will be providing, but we'll definitely make sure to get feedback from you on when we do so.
Something that I would like to weigh in and ask Sheridan about here is, Carlos, you just mentioned about templates, and they got planning to provide templates in the future for game developers. And we recently, yesterday, we actually published a type of guide on cornucopias for our community to be educated about all the concepts. And something that is very interesting that we found there is also the templates that they are giving for custom DOMs for people that are not developers, but visual creators, maybe digital creators, and they have the ability of creating all sorts of templates, all sorts of venues and experiences using pre-made templates by cornucopias. And Sheridan, have you explored that a bit? How is that going? Because that sounds like it's right up your alley, right, as game developer.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the guild I'm with, the Corn Mafia, and if anyone you would like to join the tribe, the Corn Mafia, in any of the DEGA channels, type !Mafia, and you are a part of our tribe. The Mafia Guild has a dome DAO where we have, I think, 30 or so domes, which are going to be used for various events and games and meetings. We are very excited to develop those, and we're actually going to be hiring developers to help fill out those domes, from what I've heard from the guild. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see how integrated and in every nook and cranny of the game that there's going to be opportunity for people to do something. You know, we're very much being given a skeleton.
Yeah, this
Very
isn't.
nice.
I mean, it's not a new concept. I mean, this is what gets people onboarded. I mean, it's like, you know, you used to have to know HTML to build a website, you know, and now we have tools like Wix. Where you can just drag and drop, you know, elements directly into your website, make things look the way you want to look. It may not be, you know, in some cases it may not be, you know, technologically elegant when you look at the back end web code or the HTML code that these things create, but they get the job done, and they get the job done quicker. So it's like, you know, we're lowering the barrier of entry with these things. And I love that you were calling them libraries, because that's really what they are. You know, when you want to build in JavaScript, it's like, and maybe JavaScript is a horrible example because their library is like a mess.
You get a form library instead of trying to build a new form.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's a, you know, what we want to do is we want to increase the ability for people to do this. If you're technologically savvy, you become a template creator, you know, and you can sell those templates off to people. And we've been doing that on the web for a very, very long time.
I remember,
you know, even going back to, yeah. So it's like, and we're still selling templates, you know. So it's like you
Email
think of one of
templates
these
even.
domes.
Even
Yeah,
email
we do.
templates, like you know, even
Yeah,
to this day, like doing something like email, when you want to do it at scale, right? You need something like an email CRM, right?
exactly.
Like on our side, we use
So it's like,
Replyify, but yeah, there's still innovation to be done for automating and lowering the barriers of access to email, basically.
and once you get to that space, it's like once you get into the library and the template space, that's where creativity explodes, because that's where, you know, just the normal person in the world who wants to expand their creativity into a space is able to use a template, make, you know, small easy changes through a approachable UX UI, and make something beautiful that's never been seen before. And that's what we're trying to do with DEGA. We're trying to provide those libraries, templates, easily approachable things. And it's why we love companies like Cornucopias, because they're doing the same thing. They're trying to give you domes that are pre-built, that you can like move. The table's already there. You don't have to program it.
oh,
You can
more
move the
than that,
table around
what I've heard,
in the room. You know,
from what I've heard, they're trying to push the Unreal 5 tool set forward into a UI for those domes. So you basically have the entire engine in an
hell yeah.
easier way to use.
And that's well, just to mention, I mean, you know, the integration with Unreal 5, Unity, all that stuff. It's like we do collaborate with Cornucopias on what they're doing, so that when you come in as a developer, you know, and you want to call on Unreal Engine 5 to build your AAA game on our platform, it's there for you. So you can just start right from there.
I do love UE5 and 5.2.
It's awesome. It's incredible. I remember seeing the demo reel, like maybe about a year, 6 months before it was released, and I sent it to all of my friends. I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what you guys got to use. It's just an incredible um, addition.
Yeah, I built my computer specifically for Unreal 5 development, and I have not regretted it one moment.
Yeah, that's super smart. Being ahead of the trend always, I think, pays off. Like early adopters are always, in any way that you are in contact with new technology, I think that will benefit greatly in the future. And like already preparing your setup for this new technology will definitely bring you some benefits there. Thanks for that, Sheridan. And like also something that I want to discuss now. Like we already get into that discussion, but I want to ask maybe an open question for all three of you, and also anybody there in the community listening. I see that Jihan, also my two satoshis is around, Luana as well. Like people that have been very active in the community. So I want now to get a little bit like dreaming, about what the future might look like. What does the future look like for DEGA, cornucopias, and for the broader blockchain industry in your view? Of course, focusing on Web3 gaming and metaverse, which is our area. Maybe Carlos, if you want to start there.
So I think that the future looks from a perspective. Let's narrow it down a little bit, right? Because we can talk from many points of view, but let's narrow it down from a product perspective, right? I think that the future would be stop saying Web3 gaming, right? And blockchain gaming, right? It's just gaming and that's it, right? Similar to how I remember when we used to say the mobile internet, right? I don't know if you recall that, but that was a thing. So now nobody would say the mobile internet. Mobile internet is internet.
Yeah, mobile native internet is what I remember.
Yeah, people would used to say that, right? So no, nobody would say that anymore, right? And people would used to say as well, like cloud-enabled startup, right? Right now, if you said that, it would have no meaning. It's like, yeah, everybody's using the cloud. It's like whatever, right? Or if you said like even internet company, which actually does have a valid use case or valid situation, but it's like nobody would say that anymore, right? Like, oh, we're an internet enabled company. It's like every company, like the people that are selling cupcakes are using internet, right? So we have that right now in Web3 and blockchain. We say blockchain based this, crypto that, Web3 this. We also say AI this, right? We're an AI marketing company, and AI, like all of those things will disappear, right? In the sense that they will be invisible, which is the best kind of technology, the one that you don't see, right? So I think that that's where we're headed. So a good example of that right now is like, for example, something that I really congratulate Cornucopias about is, they're opening up their game to anybody, right? So you can have or not have an NFT, and that's great, right? And that's something that we always do at DECA, in the sense that we always have a way for somebody to be a part of what we're doing that's not related to buying a token or buying an NFT, right? That's why we have daily creator competitions. That's why we also have the DECA battle bot. So stuff like that allows anybody to be a part of the ecosystem without saying, I gotta go buy crypto, and if I don't buy crypto, it's impossible for me to be, to join this community. So I think that that's what the future is about, right? Making it open, making it accessible. You get the benefits of blockchain without having to think about blockchain.
So I got to echo that. Even how do I put this? It's not an argument that I have with Carlos. Carlos and I don't argue. We violently discuss things.
Right.
Like Sheridan, do you when you're just imagine you've never touched blockchain before, and somebody comes to you and says you're going to mint your NFT. No, you want to,
This is
no,
English.
you want to. This is, you want to deploy your game asset. It's like that's the kind of language that we're trying to use at DEGA. We're already trying to start to use that language at DEGA. If you look at our video, we have a great video about when we're talking about what we're doing and the time and resources that it saves you. And even in that video, we're starting to say, you're not minting your NFT, you're deploying a game asset to your game. why do we have to even talk about NFTs anymore? Make them invisible. You know, speak English. You know, even the blockchain itself. Carlos hinted at it before. You know, it's like we don't see we're actually turning the ledger into just another database. Just a database. That's
I
all it is. Different
completely
kind.
understand what you're saying here. I've never seen a cybersecurity feature have so much pizzazz, pomp, and circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. It's like so. It's like it really is. It's just another. It really is just another database. Yeah, you're going to do your same add, change, delete, but the way you add, change, and delete should be invisible to you. You know, in crypto, you know, add is mint, change is change is burn, remint. You know, it's like this, but you don't need to know those features. You don't really need to know that kind of stuff. So I agree with Carlos on that. I'm going to open the lens up a little bit more. You know, there is a massive convergence that has been going on since digital technology took off. I see lines being blurred all the time. Even, you know, I build tools all over the place. I've built tools all over the place. And being an AI, you know, being an AI guy, you know, my background is in data analytics and artificial intelligence, going back, you know, before ChatGPT 3 was a thing. And one of the major conversations that I've had with a lot of my own personal clients, as well as with companies that I've worked with, is how do we work better with our machines? How do we converge what we're doing to turn your, you know, to turn your experience with working with a computer into something that into something where the lines are blurred. So you're
LLMs take
like,
a
for
big
example,
step to that. I actually describe
yeah,
LLMs
and they
as
have.
harmonizing the connection between math and language.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's like we've all grew up with Google, but to do a really good Google search, you have to know, you know, uh, you have to know how to do and, or, but kind of language. And it's like when I'm talking to you, I'm not, you know, there's an element of logic and rationality to what I'm saying, but it's not the underlying operating system of the human mind. So what we're doing with technologies like ChatGPT 3 is we're starting to utilize the underlying narrative operating system of the human mind and letting the logic and the reason of that be the secondary instead of putting that first, and forcing people into this like Spock-like world where everybody has to like be a master logic rationality person to even like go and buy a stock. You know, it's like, no, people at their core are not rational. We've known that for a long time. So why don't we meet each other halfway? And the future that I see is an entire internet and an entire system that is completely meeting people where they are. And that is in a place of, it's almost like building what we're building with the technologies, like what we're talking about even today with DEGA, is is this kind of like subconscious first, and then let the logic and reason of the situation emerge from that. So that's where I see things like what our technology we're building. We're helping bridge the gap between where humans are in their day-to-day life and their just mundane day-to-day life with the logic and rationality core that sits inside of everybody's computer.
I'm ready for the degarization.
I want it. That's why I'm here. You know, I'm totally bought in. You guys, seriously, it's like take a minute. And Carlos, I always say this to Carlos: take a minute and look at the organic nature. It's an organic. It's organic of metachains. It's not a logic and reason tree. The way Carlos has designed metachains is actually mimicking what happens in nature.
Mm, okay.
So
Very nice.
when I see technologies like that come on board where we're mimicking nature in some way, I know it's the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I always look to nature for inspiration constantly.
So that's what I see. I see us becoming a lot more natural in our, in our way. Ecology is going to be merged with physics a lot better.
Yeah, that's honestly my favorite answer to the Fermi paradox is all sophisticated enough aliens become indistinguishable from nature.
Hey, we're aliens too. We're all time travelers from outer space.
But let's talk about the
Exactly.
weird alien outer spaceness of the floating domes of corn.
Yes.
So I think I'll
Please go ahead and enlighten us.
think I'll start painting the picture like that. Dozens of thousands of these giant glass floating bubbles above planet Earth orbiting. That's the context for cornucopias. And I love that they've started with that, especially from a developer's point of view, because it quite literally allows you to go with the story one dome at a time. And Corn is starting off with a racing dome, which I think is pretty exciting. You know, it it's such a early way and seeing all the technology that they're going into for the graphics and texture and the art. It's it's amazing how early we are getting access to this. I honestly wasn't expecting this till like the end of the year with the full game, but the Kalido Valley is the name of the dome, and the photos that we've had in the Copy graphics, I believe, is where you can find the good 4K captures of it. Oh man, it looks like
Yeah.
my backyard out here in New Mexico. A little bit more
Racing,
ridgeline, a little bit more mountainous, but basically the same scape. It's
racing,
great.
racing is such a smart place to start. It really, really is. It's like, you go back to like the Atari days and pole position. That was one of their top games was pole position. And it's like that's all it was is a brake, an accelerator, and a shift up, shift down, and a steering wheel. And it's like that game has so many places where you can expand and look at you can build these beautiful landscapes. You just get like the full experience. You can change your tires, you can upgrade your engine, you can do all these things. And it's like you're bringing you're bringing in, by starting with racing, you're just bringing in like a completely like configurable, like a configurable gameplay in a beautiful environment. And the shots that I've seen in cornucopias, I want to race through that environment. I'll be staring out the window and crashing into walls because it's so beautiful. So, if anyone has been on a space with me before, it's like I love art as well as music as well as technology, and it's like that is like the perfect. That's like kind of like the perfect place where everything kind of like meets, and Cornucopias is doing it right,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
they really are.
So, Sheridan, I want to go now talking about this blog post, for example, that we shared yesterday about a type of an ultimate guide to cornucopias, like a summary of everything. You can find, of course, all the details in the cornucopias wiki and in their website. But like now that you mentioned Calido Valley, that is I understand, the first megadome, right? So like talking a little bit about the distinction between custom domes and megadomes. Can
Yeah,
you share a bit about that?
absolutely. So there are three side, well, really four, but you can't really see the fourth one. They're so small. From a planetary perspective, like I was painting earlier with these thousands of domes, the the thousands that you can easily see are these megadomes and theme zones. Theme zones are actually smaller than megadomes. They're about a square kilometer smaller than the megadomes. The megadomes are, from my understanding, the largest category of floating dome. And this is for the things that take such a scale like racing at Mach speed. And I do mean that literally. There is atmospheric pressure, and you can break the sound barrier. It was leaked, and Rob did confirm it in Discord that they have atmospheric drag and the sound barrier in the racing, which I think is a world first for a racing game. Like, I've never been able to break the sound barrier in any other game.
That's very interesting. And then this mega dome is built by cornucopias, but custom domes and the one that are available for players, right? For like developers and creators to create their own space.
The theme zones and megadomes are built by the team, and they are the theme zones that we know about are Fortune, Esperanza, and Solace. Though I believe there is another 24 theme zones planned to be released, and then like another 10 of each of those types, like different servers. But then you get down to the custom domes, which are player owned and for, as we mentioned earlier, events, games, and developer made visions. I believe the largest one is called Copious, and then it goes down to small. And that's from 30 acres to just under 3 acres, which I really appreciate you guys including the acreage in your blog post. I do have to say, you guys did a really good job breaking down the domes on the blog post. I know you really want to focus on it, but you should really just go read the blog post. It's done much better here. I think that the land and vehicle wasn't really covered as much, so I think we can put more emphasis on that in the space, if you're okay with that, Richie.
Yeah, no, totally. I think like I was discussing actually that with Rabbit. The blog post was already getting like large, and we wanted like a summary of at least the land portion. But I totally agree that you know, the racing part and all the other aspects are actually a good content for another blog post in the future. And also, like, if you want to talk a little bit about that, for sure, go ahead. I wanted to ask you personally, do you own a custom dome already? Do you have some plans for it?
I have plans right now. I need to secure a mortgage deal for the house I'm currently in from my dad. So once I have that done with, I'll understand my monthly liquid situation and be able to budget for that. Right now, I need to keep my own in real life dome.
That's fun.
Don't we all, brother?
But onto the racing. Even the free players, I'm kind of jelly. Like, the free players get, in my opinion, the best looking and the best feeling vehicle, even though it may not be the best in specs, because, you know, you got to give the NFTs the best specs. The T1 in the A class has gigantic thrusters facing forward on the sides of your doors. And I'm so excited to break out of Mach speed with those thrusters and just have the entire freaking car shake. Like, that is another piece of innovation that I've never seen in a good racing game.
Well, some people put that stuff in, but it doesn't have environmental interaction. Like what I think what they're planning with Cornucopias, you know, you'll just get this acceleration. But when you're dealing with a physics engine like you know, Unreal Engine 5, it's like you can actually do that kind of stuff you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things that like now people are going to start experimenting and will understand what actually metaverse means. You know, it's not just getting some headsets and that's it. It's it's basically changing everything you understand and believe to be true, right? You can change everything.
Hey, don't be leaving headsets out. I will let everyone in the space know.
Yeah.
There's an amazing community called Flat Screen to VR. You can find their Discord, and one of their community members named Preydog is developing a Unreal 5 VR injector, and it's going to be able to be used with any Unreal game to turn it into.
Can you send us a link?
I will.
Can you send us a link? I
will absolutely pop a link in the DEGA general chat once I get off the space.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Because it is going to be incredible to just turn your head and see all of Toledo Valley in an instant, and then get back to racing.
Like I said, I'd crash.
Yeah. Okay. So, guys, before we start, maybe wrapping this up, there is a question actually from our community. Well, thanks a lot for the information you're sharing, Sheridan. We're of course super excited about this, and we're going to like go back to talking a bit about cornucopias in a second. I just saw this question that I wanted to answer. So, Carlos, Rabbit, maybe you can give me an answer there for just my two satoshis. Who, in terms of DEGA, who are your biggest competitors, and what would you say is your edge over them? Do you want to like get into specifics here, or maybe just like mention a little bit about the features and then create more specific communications about that? How do you see that?
Yeah, no, it's a very simple question to answer. The truth is, like, yeah, there's quite a few projects out there talking about blockchain infrastructure. So, like I said the other day, it's competing in Web3. Actually, the actual competition isn't that hard because, like, out of every 10 projects that you hear, 9 aren't really doing anything, right? That's just the truth of it. So, whatever amount of competitors you think that DEGA has, we have about 10% of that, right? And then, but the one that are left are really good, right? In crypto, you have this phenomenon, right, in which a lot of people are just pretenders, and then but those that are really building are very brilliant people because it's really hard to get stuff done with blockchain protocols. So from those that are still out there, most of them are still catering to Web3 developers, right? Like to give you an example, right? A team that I really respect a lot, by the way, I'm not dissing them, right? This is actually a shout out, is the Third Web, right? They have a lot of reusable components, smart contracts, their SDK is pretty good. They add gasless transactions and so forth. Their system is open source, right? Just like ours. But where does the issue lie? They are making things that make my work easier. Like what they've provided is actually something that DEGA can use to make our stuff easier. But it's still far, far too complex for a game developer, right? They provide a Unity SDK, and I think an Unreal one is about to come out. But for example, when you create something, you gotta say, oh, well, I'm creating an ERC 721, or I'm creating an ERC 1155, and I'm using this gas token and that. That's still a universe away from a Unity developer to be able to use, right? Even from a web developer or any kind of people that don't have experience in the blockchain industry. So just like them, and again, their stuff is good. Just like them, everybody else is just doing the same thing, which is just instead of needing 12 steps, you need 3 steps, but you need to have the same concept, right? So they're bridging, let's say, the amount of work that needs to be done by providing reusable component, but they're not bridging the context at all. You still have to understand 100% of the context to be able to use the tools. And that's where the true limitation is, right? Because your bottleneck isn't the speed at which people can type or a given code to make a system, right? Though obviously that, shorting that does help. But your limitation is the fact that a human needs to spend about a year to truly understand blockchain systems, right? And I'm talking a dedicated year of studying and learning so that they can then use the tools that you provide to build the system in the best way, right? So as an analogy to that, right, like how things work with DEGA is like you would just say, create collection. You wouldn't say create an ERC 721, right, or an ERC 1155, or any of the other standards that are coming out. You just say, just give me a collection. Okay, how do you want your collection? Is your collection mutable, immutable? Is it transferable? Do you want the data, on chain, or do you have an existing database? Just a few options, right? And then the system will determine what's the best way to go about creating that. What's the best standard, and what are the best components that can give you what you're specifying. But you don't need to know what those components underneath are. You don't need to know that you're using an EVM system, or that you're using a Plutus smart contract in Cardano, or a WebAssembly, right, on, let's say, Substrate, right, which is the one that using Polkadot. you don't need to know or care about that, right? You just know that you want a digital assets collection, and these are the attributes that that collection has to have, which are human attributes, right? Like, can it change? Does it not change, right? Immutability, right? So stuff like that. That's the difference of that's the edge that we have. So we're actually happy to work with what most people would call our competitors. We're happy to work with them, right? Because they're gonna make our job easier, and they're gonna allow us to reach our vision faster, right? Just yesterday, I was introduced by, I can't say their names because we haven't done any public announcement. It almost slipped, but I was introduced by one of the largest ecosystem players. I was introduced to another company that was building, provided several standards, right, in terms of how to make dynamic nestable NFTs and a whole bunch of other stuff, which we already built. We have that developed, but these guys actually got it through as a standard already. So we're happy to just take their stuff and integrate it into ours, right? This isn't about pride or ego. It's about practicality in terms of realizing the vision that we have. So as time goes by, most of what you would see out there and say, oh, that's a DEGA competitor. Like, most of the time, we're just gonna work with them actually, right? And integrate what they're doing into our stuff and keep building together. So yeah, that's kind of like our perspective in terms of how we're going to be moving forward.
And I have to, I was going to, when Carlos first started talking about this, I was going to come in and say, hey, we have a higher ethos here when it comes to competition. Hardcore winner take all, you win, I lose type of thinking is the kind of thinking that we're trying to leave behind.
The nonsense of lost revenue.
Yeah, we're trying to leave that kind of thinking behind. That needs to die with fiat. That we are not Newtonian. It's like that is like ancient thinking, and all of our previous systems, financial, business, everything that we've been working with has been built on this, winner take all kind of mentality. We do not see these companies as competition. If we were going to compete on anything, it would be marketing. Who's got the coolest looking shit and who can say it in the best way. That's probably the only place where I would see like a really hardcore competition.
Oh my gosh,
but
you
we're
guys.
already...
I need to drop a little bit of Cardano culture on you. There used to be a thing from Big Joe the Don where you would go and shill a project. Any project, could be yours, could be someone else's, but you were judged like it was a wrap-off, it was the shill-off. And oh man, what good times. What good times.
Oh no, that kind of stuff is that turns the competition.
Let's bring it back. I mean,
that turns, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That turns competition. Another thing that we say that we do at DEGA is that we always want to put fun first. That's fun. It's like, why do we, the Buddha is smiling for a reason. It's like, can we just have a good time while we're doing this instead of being so wrapped up in bank accounts?
Don't even mention this to Freak, because he'll drop everything he has and he'll jump on this.
I know, right?
Don't even.
I know.
It is forbidden. Yeah. Everybody here in the audience, do not say this to Freak. He'll just jump on.
It's funny that we talk about this, especially in this session where he's not around.
I know, right? Maybe it was a good thing. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is, like, the world I come from, we talk about it in a way that we call game A and game B. We've been playing this game A world for a very, very long time, and it has not worked for all of us. So when you switch to game B and you're dealing with decentralized networks, you're dealing with decentralized controls over the same things that game A used to have, it turns competition into cooperation. We are cooperating on the right things. And Carlos is already talking about that type of thinking. And that is the world to come. It's like, we can't keep on siloing things the way we've been siloing them, because we're hurting each other in the long term. And this goes back to organic thinking again.
Yeah.
So I'll cut it short there because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And Carlos and I have a very important meeting coming up next.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's wrap
it up. Okay. So Yep. To wrap it up, then I want to, of course, thank Sheridan for being around. Also, thank you for checking out our blog post, Sheridan. Make sure you share it around with everybody. The idea is for it to be used as a source that helps people understand.
And I will
So
share
share it
that
around.
UE injector VR mod as well into the DEGA channel. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And everybody check out also, like if you're not familiar with cornucopias, check out our blog post, because as I said before, we're going to be working on a project together that will involve everybody. And it's important to start learning all these concepts. Also inviting you to participate in the daily challenge. Really go ahead and share, share this tweet, like and follow us. We are giving away sometimes premium passes, which are going to be very valuable in the future. They help you to, track all the participation that you have in the ISPO and DEGA community, so you can mint even rarer NFT with the token generation event later. So make sure you participate. We do check for that for all users to be real, to actually be contributing to the community. So go ahead and just tell everybody that you know about DEGA, about cornucopias, and let's have fun. Thank you for joining me, Carlos, Rabbit, and Sheridan. See you in the next one.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
Love all of you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Can't do it without you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.